Welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual freethinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Jill Poremba, your worship associate for this morning, and the service today will be led by our minister, Eileen Casey Campbell. Thank you to everyone on this morning's worship team, also including music by Bill Mells, Nursery Care for Children Under 3 by Melissa Jacoby, and Children's Church for Children 3 and Over by Emma Marshall and Kaya Mills. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway, and whether it's your first visit or your 1,000th, we are glad that you came. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel, and we plan on continuing with hybrid worship services throughout the church year, so you can join us each week here in person, in Zoom, or later on YouTube. I do have a few announcements to share with you today. Please join us today after the service for our second Sunday potluck. Whether you brought a dish to share or not, you are welcome to stay. We always have enough to share. Friday, February 23rd, will be dinner church. On the fourth Friday of each month, we plan to gather at 5:30 p.m. and enjoy dinner and worship at 6. You are also invited to stay after the service for games and community time. Are there any other announcements?
I just wanted to announce that we have our monthly board meeting coming up this Tuesday at 6:30. If anyone has any things that they'd like the board to consider, feel free to reach out to me, and I could put that on our agenda to talk about it. So that's all.
Good morning. I also want to let everybody know that there is a bake sale at the back of the church on a table to the right as you head back there to support the work of the church. If you are interested in buying some bake sale items for yourself, baked by some of our congregants, please do. Also, if you're interested in buying a bake sale item for one of our elders who doesn't get to be with us in person all that often, there's a basket on the welcome table under the whiteboard that you could put that in, and we will deliver it with a Valentine later this week.
You may have noticed that the Joys and Sorrows cards are back out on your chairs. We invite you to bring forward any cards you would like to share and place them in the basket after Bill rings the chimes and begins to play. You can also come forward to drop a pebble in the water at that time if you have a joy or sorrow that you'd prefer not to share. As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and devices. We now enter a space of worship. Now is the time to bring forward any joys and sorrows. Do we have a helper to light the chalice? Come on up. I invite you to join with me in our chalice lighting words as the flame is lit. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
About me that I like to make terrible pottery in my spare time. It's gotten better than when we first talked about it, but it's still pretty terrible, I will admit. But usually I'm able to make some pottery that, like stands upright and can hold water for the most part. And this week, I had a rough week. Around midweek, I was just really struggling, just overwhelmed. I was in my feelings. Things were not going my way. We've been there, right? So I decided on Wednesday, before I do anything, before I get to work, before I do anything in my home, I'm going to go bright and early to the pottery studio. That's going to fix me. I'll sit at the wheel, get some clay in front of me, some Fleetwood Mac in the headphones. I'll be all better, right? So I went with this purpose in mind. I went with all my swirling mix of big feelings. And at bright and early in the pottery studio, there aren't a whole lot of artists at work quite yet. It was just me at this long line of 10 wheels and Harriet over on the other side, who is dealing with some arthritis but still throws the most beautiful pots you've ever seen. Just whoosh, pulls them up, sets them aside, pulls them up, sets them aside. That's how Harriet works, not me. So I get there, I got Stevie Nicks, I got the clay in front of me, and I just couldn't center a piece of clay on the wheel to save my life. You've got to get your clay centered on a wheel, those of you who aren't potters. You've got to get your clay centered on the wheel, center it right, through a process of pulling it up and pushing it down, before you can make any kind of pot out of it, before you can hollow it out, or else it goes all wobbly and falls over, which is what was happening to me over and over and over again. I moved piece of clay after piece of clay off the wheel after I failed to center it. And Harriet finally looked up and she said, "You having trouble today?" She was on like her 4th beautiful casserole dish. And I said, "Yeah, Harriet, I'm having trouble today. I came here because I had a lot of big feelings. I thought this will fix it. It's not fixing it, Harriet." And she said, "Yeah, you're not really centered inside. Your pot's not going to be centered on the outside, is it?" Harriet was right. She was really right. And I think it's probably unfair to expect that we would create something beautiful and whole and centered if we can't allow ourselves that same grace first, right? I think that's why we come to church, right? Not because we come here expecting our fellow community members to fix whatever's hurting or broken inside of us. But we come here to give ourselves the grace to heal so that we can love one another well. So would you rise this morning together, in body or in spirit, here or at home, and let's sing together our opening hymn, hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love. time for a story. If you're a small person or even a big person, and you want to come a little closer for our story to see the pictures in the book or the pictures on the screen, you can come and sit up here and be closer if you like. And if you want to stay with your grown-up, that's also okay. So while folks come and get seated up front, I will let you know that this morning we're going to read a book together called Together by Megan Madison and Jessica Raleigh and illustrated by Anne or Andy Cashier. This is a book that's part of a series that's available at the UUA bookstore. They didn't pay me to tell you that, but I will tell you nevertheless because we're reading it today because it's a series I quite like. And it is a first conversation on love. How seasonally appropriate, right? And it goes like this. I love myself just as I am. Everyone is born ready to love and be loved. Everyone in the world deserves love. Now these are outside questions. We can answer them with our big, loud, outside voices, if you like, during this story, okay? You can shout it out. Who loves you? Any names? Who do you love? Love is a feeling. It can feel exciting, like butterflies in your tummy, or it can feel comfortable and safe, like a warm snuggle. Love is also an action. It's something we can do. When we love someone, we can say it and show it. How do you show love? Making someone breakfast. What a great way to show love. How do people show you love? Hugs? Another great way. Doing the dishes? Yes. Help one another? There's only one word for love, but there can be so many different kinds of love, right? And that can be confusing. You can love things like pizza or rainbows or a favorite stuffed animal. What things do you love? Pizza. Yeah. Classic. Same. Soft toys. Yeah. And you can love living things like a pet or like nature, and people like your family and your friends, siblings, your dogs. Thank you for pre-answering. Who do you love? Siblings, parents, cousins, aunties, neighbors, uncles, grandparents, friends, teachers, so many more. There are some special kinds of love you might feel if you're bigger, and sometimes we call this romantic love or being in love. There are lots of different ways that grown-ups can choose to show this kind of love to each other. How have you seen grown-ups show love? Holding hands. In this picture, they're dancing. So many ways. And anybody can love anybody. There are lots of different words you might use to talk about who you are and who you love romantically when you get older. Love can be easy, like enjoying a favorite flavor of ice cream or knowing you like a song. You just feel it. Love can also be hard, right? It can take lots of practice to learn how to show love. It can be hard when we have different ideas or want different things than someone we love. We can disagree with someone we love. Has that ever happened to you? We can even feel mad at them sometimes. That doesn't usually mean that the love is gone. When you love someone, you can find ways to make each other feel loved again. It can be hard when feelings change. Sometimes even love can change. It can also be hard if we love someone who's far away, right? Do you love anyone who's far away? Everybody deserves a loving family. A group of people who show you that they love you exactly as you are, even when it's hard. Everybody, kids and grown-ups alike. But not every family is loving, right? That isn't fair, and it can make people feel sad or alone. If someone hurts you and anyone says it's because that person loves you, know that they're wrong. It can help to find a person or a place where you feel safe. And sometimes the safe place may even be in your imagination. It can also help to remember that if you're older, or when you get older, you'll be able to make so many more choices of your own. Where do you feel the most safe? A lot of people think that there's only one way a family is supposed to love. There are messages all around us that say only one kind of love or family is best, but that's not true, is it? Some families live with each other, some don't. Some partners get married, some don't. Some people have kids and some people don't. There are so many different ways to be a family, and they can all be loving. So our last question, who is your family? Who is in your family? Not me. And this is the end of our story. Thank you for listening.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church in its work. Each week we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. This week the group is Religious Ed and Childcare. These are a group of people that plan meaningful activities for the small people in our congregation, and I want to thank them for their time. And if you have any interest in helping out in that space, please reach out to Nancy Reed and Kaya Mells. 1/4 of our plate collection for the frozen season goes to the MK Gandhi Institute for Nonviolence, whose mission is to help individuals and communities develop the inner resources and practical skills needed to achieve a nonviolent, sustainable, and just world. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket or by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering.
Friends, we are a community that promises to hold one another in our joys and in our sorrows. In both celebrations and in pain, we say to one another, we are with you. You are not alone. And together we hold these joys and sorrows this morning. We hold in our hearts and in our prayers a member who is struggling with their mental health. We share in Jody's joy for 8 consecutive days of sunshine. And we share in Ewan's joy at going to a birthday party later today. For these and all the joys and sorrows left in the silence of our hearts, Jill will drop a stone, and we will promise to one another, we are with you. Will you say it with me? We are with you. And now it's time for religious education. If you're heading to RE with Miss Emma and Miss Kaya, you can go down the stairs now.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Lord surround you everywhere you may go.
Now is the time in our service for centering and prayer, followed by some shared silence. We remind ourselves that by shared silence, we mean the absence of grown-ups talking to one another so that we can listen more closely for the sounds of life. The sounds of our children wiggling and giggling downstairs, the sounds of life going past the windows outside of these walls, the shuffling of our neighbor in the seat beside us, the beating of our own hearts. So I invite you now to take a deep breath. Let yourself be grounded, rooted to the earth. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears. Perhaps your eyes fall closed. As we turn inward, as we hold gently on to whatever tender or hurting places we find when we look inside. We walk the 6 city blocks to school, the child and I, and he tells stories of dragons and elves and time travel adventures, while I watch the tracks on the snowy ground. They tell their own stories, if you pay attention. 2 sets of footsteps below, I know, are his classmate and her mama, walking close together and quickly. They are never late. As we cross the street, new footprints show how someone slid across the slushy ice but did not fall. A squirrel hopped frantic circles on a snowbank before she climbed the nearby tree. Tiny, delicate bird prints adorn a driveway as we turn the corner, sprinkled in a tidy line, then suddenly gone. A large dog walked obediently here beside its slow, steady human whose left foot drags a bit with each stride. At the primary school are 2 sets of tracks about to separate. I look back to see them laid out behind us. One big and even, the other small and scattered, bouncing and wiggling along. I wonder if anyone will read our story, and if they will marvel at how the small steps are so much bigger than they once were, at how they break into a run as the 2 diverge. Will someone know how I lingered here, watching part of me leap off on his own, jubilant? Big flakes wet my warm cheeks. By afternoon, when I return this way, our tracks will be covered with fresh snow. How fleeting are the stories we write upon this world, and how precious. Let us join together in silence. So, my kids only trust other religious professionals with their biggest theological quandaries, not me. I have 2 local colleagues who are also lead ministers in UU congregations, both of whom you probably know because they've preached here quite a few times. Reverend Lane May Reed at First Universalist and Reverend Sherry at First Unitarian. They're incredible colleagues who I've grown quite close with over the last 6 years, and my kids are very close with them as well. Reverend Lane May Reed has taken it upon themselves to be the sports uncle, showing up for Little League games and always available to talk with them about the longing and despair involved in being a Buffalo Bills fan. Reverend Sherry hangs their artwork in her house and lets them make all sorts of mischief, and she actually enjoys it when they do. And in the way that only your own kids can really humble you, they ask these other ministers all their biggest questions about faith. Mom, can we have your phone? They'll ask. We have to text Lane May Reed a question about the Moses story. Or just this week, they said to Reverend Sherry, "Oh, I've been waiting to ask you, did Jesus become a god after he died and came back immortal like Ariadne in Greek mythology? Or was he secretly a god before? Or is that not even part of the story?" And I'm like, these are great questions. You all know I went to divinity school too, right? You see me up here on Sundays, do you not? No. But to be honest, I'm not mad about it. I'm relieved. I'm grateful they have these bonus grown-ups and so many others. I'm grateful they have aunts and uncles and chosen family to answer the questions that they can't or won't bring to me, especially as they get older and those questions become bigger and more important. I'm grateful they have grandparents to teach them songs and stories that I don't know. I'm grateful they have a church full of loving people of all ages who will hold them in ways that I can't, because I can't. I can't be all that they need. And because this is not a sermon about my kids. It's about all of us. For me, parenthood has been a great softening. Besides the physical softening of making humans out of my own body, there is, in holding the responsibility for another person's care, for another person's life, an enormous softening of ego, a massive exercise in humility. Because choosing caregiving work, choosing parenthood or elder care, or taking on the work of any other person's needs, we quickly realize how inadequate we are, right? I think I spent the first couple weeks of parenthood just saying at every turn to anyone in earshot, this is not a one-person job. This is bigger than me. And it was terrifying at the time, but having allowed my ego and my fears to continue softening considerably since then, it's also a blessing. Not because, and do not get me wrong about this, not because my kids are here to make me a better person, in the same way that my terrible pottery doesn't exist to make me a better person, but because I'm here to become my truest, deepest, fullest self for the sake of all the beings that I love and am accountable to. It's a heart-softening process to hold ferocious love and protectiveness for people I hope, best case scenario, will go off into the world without me. And I think all of us, whether we're parents or not, find our way into this softening when we practice love without control. When we accept responsibility for one another's well-being, when we practice accountability and consent in community. It is such a vulnerable act to love deeply and let others be fully who they are. To hold ourselves responsible for our behavior toward them, and to let them, and no one but them, be responsible for theirs. It takes a trust that softens our hearts and our egos. So every month, staff and volunteers from our 3 local UU churches get together to brainstorm the contents of the upcoming season's Soul Matters Spiritual Deepening Packet. We talk about the coming theme in context of worship, music, story, and spiritual practice ideas. And I brought up in the meeting for this season of Staying Soft the concept of gentle parenting, raising children, to put it very succinctly, with connection and support in place of blame and shame or punishment. It's a strategy that includes a lot of noticing the impact of everyone's needs and feelings on their behavior, and doesn't include coercive control or adult-to-child power struggles. It's somewhat trendy, but it's new in name and not at all in principle. It's not new in that plenty of cultures have always parented this way, as just one of many, many examples over and over again in primary accounts of white colonizers in Australia during the 18th and 19th century. The writers remark with confusion and befuddlement at how kind Aboriginal adults were to the children in their communities, about how they hugged their children and spent time with them willingly, helped them, and in general seemed to actually like them. It's not new in that animal behavioral science has shown in study after study for decades now that positive behavior reinforcement is the most effective way to shape an animal's behavior. What they mean by positive behavior reinforcement is the rewarding of desirable behaviors and the ignoring of less desirable ones, while noticing the feelings and needs and adjusting the environment accordingly. It's gentle parenting for non-humans. But humans are, sorry to make you feel anything less than special this morning, pretty typical animals in terms of behavioral science. It's not that positive reinforcement is better because it's nicer, though it is. It's better because it works, because it relies on a massive body of research studying how creatures learn and learn to be together. See, animal brains, it turns out, even our fancy human brains, are pretty bad at narrowing our focus to just the thing that someone with power wants from us. Behavioral learning is pretty scattershot. So when we're a caregiver or a person in power, we're always inadvertently teaching something about a neutral cue or behavior or environmental factor. We're always inadvertently influencing. For an example, if I reward my dog for sitting politely in the kitchen with the fan on while I'm wearing my green boots, she doesn't know which of those or 1,000 other neutral factors are related to the good experience she just had. Maybe the positive reinforcement accidentally makes her love the sound of the kitchen fan or the smell of my green boots. And that's fine. Those are neutral. But if I punish her for not sitting politely and she can't narrow the lesson to understand which of the 1,000 factors in her experience I'm punishing, maybe she becomes fearful or anxious anytime she's in the kitchen, or anytime a fan is on, or when she sees me put on my green boots. You get what I mean? So do this enough, and I'd have a fearful, anxious, eventually aggressive dog who stops being able to function in a world full of boots and overhead fans. It's both ancient wisdom and well-established science. Anyway, I was talking at our Soul Matters meeting about these ideas. I promise I didn't go on for this long. Around gentleness with the creatures, human or otherwise, that we have a responsibility for and authority over. And one of the writing volunteers for the packet interjected to say, it's so hard to listen to this because I didn't get parented like that. I guess you'd call it rough parented. I call it negative behavior reinforcement, but rough parented actually kind of sounds better. She said, I guess I got what you'd call rough parented, and it brings up so much resentment and sadness to hear someone say, this is how it's supposed to be when you love someone, and I didn't have that. And yeah, it does. It does bring those things up, which I think is the point I'm trying to make. It does make one feel that way, and I know, because I'm not following all the parenting trends, but I am out here trying to parent, trying to love people in ways that are compassionate and responsive and evidence-based. But I did not get gentle parented. That was not a thing in the 80s. Even if you lucked into woke, gentle parents a generation or more ago, even if you have them right now, none of us live in a society that is gentle to vulnerable people. Your immediate caregivers may have cultivated or may still be cultivating softness, kindness, a holistic view of you as a fellow human, but our culture does not look at children that way. Our kids have to practice learning to hide in a closet once a quarter because we care more about the fragile masculinity of gun culture than we care about them. We are not a society that puts resources toward our children's daily care, toward our children's health care, toward adequate education for them. We all got rough parented by this society. So when I say this is not a sermon about my kids, I mean it. This kind of practice is not about the people we're caring for, about people we have authority over. It's about us. The interruption of the cycle of violence, of roughness toward those vulnerable people in our communities, people we wish to love without control, starts with us. It means confronting those places within us that are responding to the human equivalent of scary green boots and reparenting them. If we want to be gentle with our loved ones, if we want to be gentle with this world, we have to be gentle with ourselves in all the ways the world never was. Being gentle with my kids is not about my kids. Being gentle with the person in the community who just bugs the heck out of you, being gentle with your nosy neighbor, your elder parent, with the earth itself is not about them. It's about being gentle with our own selves. Doing the work to gently heal the wounds we've been carrying, maybe since we were children ourselves. Learning not to be triggered by the green boots. The green boots are a metaphor, you're following that, right? The thing that really gets me, your thing might not be this thing, okay? But I'm gonna trust that whether you're a parent or not, you have a thing with someone you love and are accountable to that really gets you. But the thing that really gets me is getting out the door. One of my children will take a full 3 to 5 business days to put on a single shoe. The other will immediately put muddy sneakers on his feet and then forget 200 to 500 items that he has to run through the house, muddy sneakers and all, to find before we can leave. And whatever amount of time I allot for us to suit up and get out the door, it takes exactly 5 minutes longer than that time period to accomplish it. And I lose it. But this isn't a sermon about them, right? I could lean into what I have been taught about power and control in these moments. I could punish, I could yell at them, and they would hate school mornings and take just as long to get out of the house. I tell you this as someone who knows I have tried it. If I'm going to effectively teach my children the life skills of putting on shoes and a coat, preparing for something in advance, keeping their belongings where they belong, and respecting people's time, I'm going to have to reteach myself how to think about power. Because what is it that's bothering me so much? And again, this might not be the thing that gets you, but when you got, what is it that's bothering us so much? What is it I can't stand? My anxiety around being too slow to complete a task because of the way I was parented? For sure. A disruption to the way I've been taught to think about power? A stark realization about what is and is not actually in my control? For big sure. And all that inner turmoil, all our own big feelings, is stuff we caregivers have to re-parent ourselves through before we can begin to be in a relationship of love without control, let alone teach another person any skills about putting their shoes on. Do you ever catch someone else's feelings? Like someone you're in relationship with is dysregulated, like sad or lonely or angry or somehow out of sorts, and you become all dysregulated just by being with them? It's all of us, right? It's not just me. Okay, good. What often happens, I think, in those moments, because we were all rough parented by a society that cares more about power and control, is that we try to control the other person's behavior, especially if the system our relationship exists in puts us in a position of authority as a parent, an elder, a boss, a teacher, a church leader. We try to stop their dysregulated behavior, right? Order their chaos into calm, sometimes politely, sometimes not. But what we actually need in those moments is a re-parenting of the feelings and needs it brings up in us. What love needs is for us to tend gently to the child in our own heart so that we can show up with calm and compassion for this other person, so that we can show up in love. Trying to love without control brings our own inner children to the surface of our being. And we have to be so gentle with all of their hurts so that we're able to be gentle with someone else's. Because this living, it's not a one-person job. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than any one of us alone. We need one another. And in order for us to show up for one another wholly, we have to choose to sit softly with our whole and hurting selves. In order to love without control, we have to love ourselves gently in all the ways that the world never could. Friends, may it be so, and amen.
Please picture me in the trees. I hit my peak at 7 feet in the swing over the creek. I was too scared to jump in, but I was high in the sky. Was Pennsylvania under me? Are there still beautiful things? Sweet tea in the summer, cross your heart, won't tell no other. And though I can't recall your face, I still got love for you. Your braids like a pattern, love you to the moon and to Saturn, passed down like folk songs. Our love lasts so long. I've been meaning to tell you, I think your house is haunted. Your dad is always mad, and that must be why. I think you should come live with me, and we can be pirates. Then you won't have to cry or hide in the closet. And just like a folk song, our love will be passed on. Please picture me in the weeds before I learned civility. I used to scream ferociously anytime I wanted. Sweet tea in the summer, cross your heart, don't tell no other. And though I can't recall your face, I still got love for you. Pack your dolls in a sweater, we'll move to India forever. Passed down like folk songs, our love lasts so long.
You know you have an amazing music director when you're like, hey, it's Super Bowl Sunday. What do you think about playing a Taylor Swift song? He's like, yeah, that makes sense. And then it's this. Let us offer as a benediction these words from Lucinda Duncan. We pray for the quietness of snowflakes, knowing that love is quiet. We pray for the kindness of small acts, knowing that gentleness is fragile. We are grateful to know that thoughtfulness makes no sound, that compassion leaves wonderfully beautiful traces when we open ourselves to wonder. May ours be a religion that goes like the snowflake everywhere in quietness, in love, and with gentle regard for that which is true and beautiful in us and about us. Amen. Would you rise in your bodies or in your spirits and sing together our closing hymn, number 1007 in the Teal hymnal, There's a River Flowing.
We're gonna start that again.
join me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.